disturbed over the comments that have been made, and also regarding the last election process. So I have two things that I would like to do, and one of those would be to ask the board to vote to make a motion to ask the Attorney General and the Secretary of State to impose sanctions against the chairman of the Hinds County Election Commission. This, I think, will show that we just do not condone this type of behavior or total disregard for the law. I think it's very simple for everyone to understand that the election commissioner has already stated that she violated the law. And by apologizing does not excuse this individual from not being or having to suffer the consequences of violating the law. I think that we do have a responsibility as supervisors under section 23-3-215, if I'm not mistaken, and specifically the board president has the responsibility to make sure that all elections are carried out in the county and that there are nonpartisan elections, and that the supervisors make sure that these elections are carried out as smoothly as they possibly can. We don't know, at least I don't know, what happened in the wake of this last election. I've heard that there are as many as 7,000 people that were not afforded the right to vote. And after that, we've heard several other statements to where people just, almost with a cavalier attitude, just feel as if this is no big deal. We have people that have died for the right to vote. And I don't think that there's anything cavalier about that, nor should it be. I think that Medgar Evers would roll over in his grave for this board not to take action to where we will not have individuals standing in line for 2 and 3 hours and not being able to vote. I also think that this was done by design to impede the election process and to make sure that the voting public's confidence is eroded based on the fact that they're not going to come back and stand in line for 3 and 4 hours when they don't have a ballot. But I also understand there are several other things that took place, such as people Xeroxing copies of a ballot, and that's just wrong. Judge Shamsonine is here today, and I'd like to ask him to come, and then I'd like to ask Peter to give us some advice regarding the legal aspects of that. And Judge, before you come, I just want to make sure that I feel so strongly about this that I'm willing to go it alone if this board
I second your motion.
Does not want to deal with this particular issue, but I think it's too important. The Secretary of State has called this action despicable and inexcusable. So this is not the first time. In 2010, for the new Supervisor Greer McQuater, the board actually had to take over an election and print the ballots because the same individual in question refused to print the ballots. And we were called in by the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, and all of this is on record, that if we didn't get this done, that they would get it done. So I think that what we need to do is to send a very, very strong message today that we're not going to tolerate this in Hinds County, and we're going to actually make sure that this does not happen again, where our people will not let the voting process go by the wayside and their confidence further erode. Judge Shamsonine, good morning.
Before Judge, you make your comments, I want to clarify an interpretation of the statute that you quoted. The statute states that if the election commissioners should fail to perform their duties as solely elected, if they fail to perform their duties, if so elected, then the Board of Supervisors, specifically the Board President, shall take over the responsibilities of making sure that our citizens are entitled to an election.
That's what I said, Madam President. That's what happened when she violated the law. So if that's not a clear violation, I don't know what is.
The election commissioners actually perform their duties However, they did not perform their duties satisfactorily. I am in agreement that the commissioners shall be sanctioned, and I will vote in that regard. But I wanted to make sure that everyone understands exactly what the statute, how the statute reads, and the interpretation of the statute.
Let me say this, Madam President. I was not implying that you were not doing what you were supposed to be doing. That's not what I was trying to imply. Or the board. If you took it that particular way, that's not what I was trying to imply.
Yes.
I was just merely trying to imply that you have a higher responsibility by being the board president, and I know that you will take that very seriously. So
I don't
was
think
not
you
trying to pry.
understand what the statute.
Oh, I understand very well what
It
the statute
says if
says.
the commissioners fail to perform,
Yeah.
they actually perform their duties.
No, and not in my estimation, but I'd like to hear from Judge Hampson.
Did not perform their duties satisfactorily. Judge.
Good morning to the Board of Supervisors. Good morning, Judge. First, I'd like to say I do appreciate being given this opportunity to address you this morning. I am Municipal Judge Ali Shamsuddin, and as most of you know, I just participated in the recent election for Circuit Court Judge for Hinds County. Now, I'm a longtime resident of Hinds County, born and raised in Jackson by a grandmother who for most of her life didn't have the right under law to vote. Matter of fact, I never got a chance to see her vote here in Jackson. I served in the United States Army Reserve for 2 years. I took an oath to defend the United States Constitution, which includes the right to vote. My father served in World War II. I had 2 uncles who served in World War II, one in Normandy and one in Iwo Jima, who fought at the time to defend the Constitution of the United States, even though at that time they didn't have the right to vote in Jackson, in Mississippi. As an official here in Jackson, I understand that we have to be able to take our praise and we have to be able to take our detractors. And that's why I felt comfortable and I enjoy seeing people who would come out as today. They came out and they voiced their opinion about a subject here on the agenda, and they made their presence known and their persons known. They stood up here and they told their names. Unlike this person who sent me hate mail, who declared that they sent it out, maybe you got some of it, because of my efforts to run in this last election. Although I note that this person didn't even, although my address is on here, they didn't put their address on here or their name to show you how cowardly they are. I hope they're watching this presentation to speak of me, but too cowardly to make themselves known. But I want it clear, I want to make it clear here what I'm asking for. And then again, as a judge, I took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Mississippi. Publicly, I did that. Part of that is to protect the rights of the citizens of this city and this county. And like you, Supervisor Graham, I've been getting many calls about this past election. And I'm one person that you get into you take your chances. You go into an election, you win or you lose. You win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But it's supposed to be a democratic process, and when it's tainted, it's not a democratic process anymore. So I'm not standing here today asking for a recount? Because what did one of our famous geniuses said, Albert Einstein? If you do the same thing over and over again, you can't expect different results. So you can recount all you want, but if the process is tainted, you're going to get the same result.
Yes, sir.
So I'm saying, I'm asking that this board not only sanction the election commissioners, but I'm asking for a full-blown investigation into that whole electoral process. If the counts come out as they are what they are. But if the process is tainted, then the counts are no good. I'm not talking about anybody who supported anybody. That's part of the democratic process. And I can live with that. But I cannot live with a tainted process being called democracy.
Thank you.
But, Madam President, I'm not finished. I'm not finished yet because, you know, we sit here, we talked an hour about a stomp. So I think that Judge Shamsuddin should be allowed to say anything that he wants until he is finished. Judge, are you finished?
I would like to say that. Again, I agree with you, Supervisor Graham, to take this process so cavalier. I put my life on the line in the United States Army. My father put his life on the line in the United States Army. My uncles put their life on the line in the United States Army. My uncle came back from Normandy so distraught about what he saw. It was a long time before he could even believe in God again. I saw him live and finally come to peace with God at 83 before he died. And for someone to take so cavalier about a process that people have given and suffered and died and struggled for, and say, oh well, that's just the way it goes. No, it's not just about me. It's not just about me. It's about all those people who supported all their candidates, who stood out in the weather, who stood out there for hours, and then be given photocopied ballots. I had one voter to tell me, I voted on that photocopied ballot, but I still don't know what the machine said, who I voted for. They never told me.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think we're ready to take action, Supervisor Stubbs.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I want to thank Supervisor Graham for placing this item on the agenda. I still think the election commissioners should be here today. And we're placed on the agenda, meeting after meeting, leading up to the election. And we tried to make sure there would be no problems. They didn't say anything about ballots and shortcomings. And that's why I suggested at those meetings that they get everything approved through our legal department, and they did not. And that's why we, as this county, is considered the laughingstock of the state of Mississippi because we had people who were supposed to be in charge of the election who ran a very flawed election, especially when you say you violated state law and you admit it. That's like a killer telling somebody, well, I admitted I killed you, but just let me go home. A bank robber saying, I admitted I robbed the bank, let me go home. Yes, there need to be sanctions and there need to be an investigation because we asked. And it's time for us as a board to start treating these elected officials like they're responsible to this county instead of themselves. Let's go after some of these bonds and then we'll stop this nonsense. You got fair elections over in Madison County, Rankin County, Lee County, but here in Hinds County it's full of cheating and everybody know. I tell people all the time, I said we try to get 5 votes for every one that everybody else get because we know they're gonna cheat on us. So and that shouldn't be the way that elections are handled in this county. And that's what the judge is saying. To sit up here and cavalierly just say, well, it's okay to cheat and it's okay for this to be wrong, that's not right. The Secretary of State looking for us to do something because he said the law was violated. What y'all gonna do? Thank you.
Supervisor Britt.
Judge, I want to thank you and your family for your service to our country. There's not a higher honor, in my opinion, than serving our country. So I appreciate that. My question deals with, it looks to me like technologically we're going backwards. For a period of time, we had electronic voting. You could go, you could mash, you had instant results. You weren't worried about paper ballots. We've gone to the electronic poll book now, where you show up, they find you very quickly, electronically. It seems to me, in my mind, and maybe there's a reason why we went to, as a board, to paper ballots, that's unnecessary. That we should just be able to go, electronic book, identify yourself, you give your ID as required by law, you go, you vote, and the results are tallied almost instantaneously. And there's no cost associated with that. So looking at this, just the process that we're going through, seems to me to be very inefficient. And I wondered, when did that change? I'm curious because I think the public would like to know, when did that process change, that we went from electronic to paper, which looks like a step backwards technologically?
I think Supervisor Graham can answer that question.
I'll be glad to answer that question because the type of machines that we're using are the most technologically advanced machines that are made. They are machines that are certified all the way from the United States Congress all the way down. We use those machines to have, for triple redundancy so that people could not cheat. The reason why we went to a paper ballot was so we could have a paper record to where even, I don't know about you, Supervisor Greer, but when I ran 3 times in the same precinct, just so happened a year apart, the electricity went out. And so what happens is even if the electricity goes out on these particular machines, they can still vote. The entire state of New York used these. The entire state of Florida used these. Over 60% of the people in the United States use the same identical machines that we are using. There's triple redundancy. It runs on a battery. It is a computer. You can give people a receipt. I think this is an effort to muddy the issue. The issue is not the machine. No machine will work if you don't have the paper in it. This is not the issue. The issue is whether the law was violated. I'm not talking about the machine. And the only issue is whether everyone had the right to vote and if their votes were counted. And we don't even know if the votes were counted. We had one man that called me, said that when he received his ballot, it was already filled out. So we need to make sure that we do everything to ensure the integrity of the election, not muddy the process and not detract from the issue. The issue are the ballots and whether or not the law was violated. And Madam President, I'm still I think I still have the floor. I'd like to ask Peter to come up and talk to us about the legal issues that we're going to probably be. Judge, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I hope that this board will vote to do something, because to do nothing would be saying that we condone everything that happened.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Peter?
I'm not sure what I can add. I will tell you I do have some concern. I want to be careful what I say. I think it's likely that we're going to see some sort of litigation as to the public statements that were made by one of the election commissioners. I will tell you that Section 23-15-269 is the penalty for a violation of an election law, and any commissioner who shall willingly refuse or knowingly fail to perform any duty is liable of a misdemeanor. I think that would be properly taken up by the district attorney or the attorney general, but it would appear from the statements that have been made publicly that at least one, and I don't know how many election commissioners were involved in the decision, but the decision to not print the required number of ballots is a knowing failure as described in that statute section. My concern is then, do we end up with some sort of civil liability or elsewise? I'd like to do some research, provide a memo to this board. I do think it's important for this board to know how the decision was reached and to make sure that this does not occur again. And if this board can't get assurance that the law is going to be complied with, you need to know what steps are available.
Thank you very much, Peter. Peter, I'd just like to ask you and Ms. Davis at my request to meet with the, this is outside of the motion that I've made, to meet with the election commissioners and see how these decisions came about and to give a report back to the board as to what happened, because right at this particular point, we don't know that we don't know. And I'm taking this as probably one of the most serious things that I've done since I've sat in this chair. I feel just that serious and just that strong about it. So if you would, and Mrs. Davis, at the earliest possible convenience, meet with them, because we have an election in less than a week or a week and a half, to where we'll be able to know what we need to do, whether we need to go and watch the polls ourselves or whatever we need to do in order to where this will not happen again. So if you would do that for me, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I have a motion and regarding what we should do.
There has been a motion. Would you state your motion, Supervisor Green?
My motion is to ask the Attorney General, through way of the District Attorney, and Peter can help me through this, the Secretary of State to impose sanctions against the current Election Commissioner, Connie Cochran, for a willful and wrongful violation of the election laws in the state of Mississippi.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Discussion. I can, Supervisor McWhorter.
My question relates to exactly when we're asking for sanctions. Is that basically enforcing the law, or this is something in addition to the law? Or?
Enforcing the law.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. And is this specifically toward the election commission or just one person on the election commission?
I think Peter said that there's a statute that says that the chairman is the person that's responsible, but we don't know until after Peter has investigated whether or not others participated in this or not.
So then, but we're specifically stating one person now in one motion, and we're asking the board attorney to go and get us an investigation as to how many people involved, but we've already voted on one.
Correct.
Let me just say that I think you can state election commission, and that will take care of it.
I'll change it and amend it to election commission.
Now, I am going to say this. I have, ever since we went to the paper ballots, I have received numerous complaints regarding the integrity of the paper ballots, because some citizens feel that you can just stuff other paper ballots, and the fact that you have no way of knowing how an individual voted, which is none of anyone else's business, but if you can just take a ballot and circle in your candidate of choice, then you can take several other paper ballots and circle in for a candidate. So there is some question regarding the integrity of the paper ballots. I don't care what state has, what state utilizes those paper ballots or this same system. There is a question regarding the integrity of the paper ballots. Thank you.
Madam President.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
The motion carries.
Madam President, you voted for the same machines that we had.
Yes, and you championed it, and it was very convincing.
That's correct.
Very convincing that this will work. But after voting, I have, and I admit, I did vote along with you, championed. You worked that contract.
And I sure did. And the fact that I'm not sorry about it, and the fact is that that's not the issue. The issue is the ballots, not the machines.
Well,
We're trying to muddy the waters.
and that's what I just discussed, the ballots. They have a question regarding the integrity of those ballots that are being stuffed into those machines.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We'll move to the next supervisor, the Honorable Darrell.
Thank you. I hope both of my items will be extremely brief. Well, I'll let y'all discuss my help to lead myself personally. The first one is authorization to donate surplus county work truck to the town of Edwards. The only problem is I don't have that specific truck. Director Felix did identify one, but he's out sick today, so I was expecting him to identify that specific truck. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Second item is to enter into an agreement to accept the donation of the Brownsville Volunteer